I was born and raised in a small village nestled among hills and rivers, where every path holds the footprints of childhood and old trees remember the laughter and tears of generations. I was only 8 years old when I first saw Sasha. He had come from the city to spend the summer with his grandmother. His large brown eyes and warm smile left me speechless the moment I saw him. "Hi, I'm Sasha," he said, taking off his cap. "Marta," I replied, not knowing then that from that day on, he would live in my heart forever. We became friends instantly. We ran through the meadows, chased butterflies, and swam in the river. I showed him all my favorite places, the old well that even adults avoided, the grove where I believed forest spirits lived, and the field of daisies where I hid when I felt sad. He told me about this city, about the subway that rides underground, and about cartoons I had never seen. I listened with bated breath. It felt like he came from another world, brighter, livelier, more magical. When the sun set behind the hills, we would sit under the willow by the river, and I asked him, "Will you come back next summer?" "I promise," he said, squeezing my hand. That I promise became my personal vow of happiness. And he did come back every summer. We met at the same willow, and every time he was a little taller, a little older, but always mine. I was 14 when I first felt that his silence said more than words. One evening, he took my hand and whispered, "I love you." I loved him too. We kissed, and the world disappeared. There was only him and that summer. But summer doesn't last forever. He left in the fall, and I counted the days until the next summer. We wrote each other letters and sometimes called, though the connection was poor. I read his letters over and over. They smelled of paper, distant streets, and his warmth. But the next summer, he didn't come. He wrote that he was preparing for university entrance exams. I cried at night, imagining him studying, meeting new people. But I believed he would come the following year. And he did. A year later. But he was no longer the same. His eyes had changed, and his smile was no longer mine. "I have a girlfriend," he said. Casually, like it was nothing. I smiled, pretended I didn't care. Then I went to the field of daisies and cried silently, pressing my hands to my chest as if I could hold back the pain. After that, summer changed. I no longer waited for him. I waited for peace. I stopped replying to his letters. One day he wrote that he understood and never wrote again. I entered the teacher training college, lived in a dorm, but in my heart, it was always the same village, the same willow, the same boy. Even when I started dating someone else, I kept comparing. It wasn't fair, I knew, but the heart doesn't follow reason. After graduating, I returned to the village. I taught at the local school and lived a quiet life. I married without passion. He was kind and dependable. We had a daughter. I loved her deeply. But in the quietest evenings, when night embraces the house, I look out the window and remember. One day, Sasha came to the school, wearing an expensive coat with a woman and a little boy. Our eyes met and the world froze for a moment. I didn't tremble. I didn't fall apart. I simply nodded. He smiled and walked away. And I stayed. In my place. And for the first time, I felt I had conquered the memory. I no longer belonged to him. Over the years, I began writing in a journal. I wrote to him, to my younger self, to the summer, to the willow, to the daisies. I remembered how his letters smelled of gasoline and paper, how we read books together in the grass, how he patted my shoulder when we jumped into the river. All of it remained in me. Recently, I wrote one final letter. Not to send. Just for myself. My childhood love. You taught me to dream, to love, to suffer. You left a piece of yourself in me. And even though we are not together, I thank you for those summers. For every touch, every glance, every hope. Yours, Marta. I placed the letter in the old box, alongside his letters. And closing my eyes, I smiled. First love is like the scent of summer, like the flight of a butterfly, like the imprint of a hand on your heart. It doesn't disappear. It simply lives within us quietly, and time cannot destroy it.